2 weeks ago, I got to test Open before anyone else from the public, alongside only a handful of other players. And what I experienced surprised me in more ways than one. Now, it's no secret that battle royales are one of my favorite genres in gaming right now, so when I first saw Open, I was excited to see what unique spin they could bring to the genre, which is honestly getting a little bit stale. Unfortunately for them, it also makes me particularly critical of this style of game, and so I'm going to be brutally honest in this video. Despite talking to the team frequently, I didn't actually know what to expect going into this playtest, and it wasn't anything like what I had in my head. I will say that even though they have promised a multi-mode battle royale, this first iteration of the game didn't include any of the bells and whistles that will help Open stand out in the coming years. That being said, many of their promises were still on display despite being a very early look at the game. The game was focused on a fast-paced battle royale where 12 players enter in squads of 3 and then the last team standing is the winner. It could actually be more players than that, but I'm not entirely sure because we only had limited players to choose from. The map we played on was quite small, but not without a lot of charm, with plenty of places to take cover, some simple elements of elevation, and really fast match times. Nothing like I've ever experienced in a traditional battle royale environment. Now, the first thing you'll notice when you jump into the game is just how vibrant and colorful everything is. Because Open is all about cross IP integration and the Ready Player One aesthetic, you'll find that the environment is bright, beautiful, and exciting, but the characters themselves don't take themselves too seriously. I don't think that approach is for everyone, but this is the only true way to take on this approach for an open ecosystem. Now, you could see a cool cat running around maybe in something like Fortnite, but not so much in Call of Duty. That would just look plain out of place. This integration of NFTs and meme culture helps separate Open from all of its competitors and make you feel more attached to the world. I didn't get lucky enough to spawn as the Illuvium Ranger during my playtests, but I shot at many of them whilst running around as Parzival and Artemis instead, two of my favorite fictional characters of all time. If you want to feel like you're playing the game as a part of an existing crypto community, then they have really nailed this feeling. And honestly, I hope they make a Scoriox exclusive skin just for me. Just a little hint in there. Now, not only that, but the grenades turn into bright bubbles. Major explosions and enemies that die explode into a whole host of different coins. I believe they call them credits in the movie. This entire thing really leans into its aesthetic and doesn't shy away from just having plain old fun. And really, that's what I got out of this experience. Now, unfortunately, the gameplay was at a very early stage and there were some really frustrating bugs that almost made you want to smash the keyboard over your desk. The biggest problem was that since they haven't got full-on server setups yet, every player you were playing against, and myself obviously, had a really high ping, like above 300 milliseconds, and it made it harder to truly experience what the game could be. Even with that in mind, it was easy to imagine what the game might feel like had it been more fluid from a shooting and even like a throwing grenades perspective, and even when you did manage to get that clean headshot with a sniper, it felt pretty sweet. Now, it's time to talk about the current game mechanics available to us. There were 3 key aspects of the game we're going to delve into here: abilities, grenades, and weapons. Now, only one ability was available, where everyone had a super jump item. You could basically use this hotkey, I think it was on Q or something, and you could use it super often, around every 5-10 seconds, and allowed you to jump at maybe 5 times the normal height. This was a nice addition since the entire map was designed around this, and moving up one story of a given building was really easy with this ability, and every zone typically had 3 major elevations: the ground, level 1, and level 2. With this, you could reposition as often as you wanted, and no one could truly be in a place that you couldn't reach. There was no hiding down a lockdown corridor. There was always some way for someone to get in at a different angle to shoot at you from. And with that in mind, it kept the action ongoing the entire match. Now, I only hope in this sense that they add more abilities to the game or make them more nuanced based on the character you're playing. For example, the Illuvium Ranger should be able to fly, glide, slide. That would be really, really cool. The more customization that comes to this, the better it will be for the game as a whole. Now, the game only had 2 types of grenades available so far, which were a classic frag grenade, obviously, and a bubble shield grenade, which was something I haven't actually really used in a game before. The controls to use them were honestly really weird and kind of crap. Obviously, it hadn't really been focused on yet, and it's going to be fixed in the future, but it wasn't proper grenade controls, let's just put it that way. And I expect them to improve that in the next iteration for future playtests, but their use was somewhat fun. Finding the best opportunity to throw the bubble grenade and create a specialized shield either on yourself, on an ally, or in a prime location made for some really fun variety in the gameplay, even though it's not really fully fleshed out yet and the bubble is a little bit small to really be able to use it easily, let's say. Now, it's easy to forget that there were some really fun and wacky grenades featured in the Ready Player One film, with the dancing grenade being one of my favorites, and I really hope when it comes to weapons and other gear, they include as many different options as possible to truly lean into this arcade style of gameplay that Open is really doing well with. This build of the game only had 4 weapons, so let's talk about them. It had the pistol, shotgun, assault rifle, and sniper. Now, obviously this isn't much, and normally I criticize that because content is king and I'm all for it, but this one just felt different and it's so hard for me to describe. Now, every single weapon felt like it had a very specific role, and sometimes in games when you add too many weapons, you end up ignoring a majority of them since there is always a best in class. Like, one assault rifle is just better than all the others. That's typically how it shakes out in any Call of Duty game. I mean, obviously there's some nuance to it, but you get the idea. It would be cool to see the remaining classes or classic classes come to the game though, things like SMGs and rocket launchers, but this simplicity in the game gave me a massive nostalgia trip when I played. The overall experience did give me a sense of back in the day where everyone was in year 9 at high school and would play a 20-player match of Halo while the teacher was talking about calculus. Taking out your mate sitting next to you from across the map with a sniper, or running them down with the shotgun and camouflage was some of the best times in any shooter ever, and I think Open could really capture this feeling. Now, I do have a few more general thoughts on the game as a whole, and I must admit, I did expect a giant map like PUBG or sprawling cities like Apex Legends when I first jumped into Open, and this may eventually evolve into that, I don't know, but Open is a much smaller scale when it comes to battle royales, at least the playtest that I managed to participate in. This might be different to what some people want, but in a world where I barely have an hour to play a video game, I love just how fast these battles were. Depending on the final zones, a game could be as short as 10 minutes, or even sometimes be wrapped up in 6 or 7, depending on how well a team did. This means that it's so much faster for you to jump back in and try again to win the match. Not only that, but there's basically no downtime where you loot 20 buildings or run across 20 kilometers of empty desert. In the game, you find a gun quickly and start gunning down the 3 wacky characters running towards you with their bright, colorful outfits. Now, it is also a lot more arcadey than any other battle royale I've ever played, and honestly, I loved it more than I thought I would. I can't wait to just jump into a casual match with friends, gun it out over and over and over again. Also, with the right meta progression systems, this could perform really well with the right audience. Now, in the end, what I'm most excited for is the multi-mode aspect of this game, and because of the small map size, I can see objective-based systems play well within these games. Maybe you need to capture the flag before another team, something that hasn't really been tried before in the genre, and would give them the opportunity to shake it up. Now, the ultimate question you have right now is, will Open succeed in the long term, and will it do well based on what I saw in this playtest? Obviously, it's an early playtest, so anything I say you should probably take with a grain of salt, but here are my thoughts. It's hard to say at this moment in time just how popular this game will be, but it does differentiate itself from all of its competitors in several ways already, even in the early phases of development. If anyone isn't super sweaty when it comes to shooters and enjoys a more fun and laid-back battle royale experience, then this will definitely please them. Not only that, but those who are more hardcore will probably get something out of it too, even if it's just showing off their NFT collections, but it's less likely for them to get too deep into this game. Now, I will say that the NFT NFT culture that will permeate throughout this game will be something unlike we have ever seen before. Now, wearing a cosmetic to make you look like an Illuvium Ranger might not grant you special powers, although I hope they do, but just getting to represent that community is reason enough for many players to jump into a game like this. Ultimately, the core gameplay loop is feeling really fun and really nostalgic, but it still needs a lot more work to add to its unique value proposition, and enhancements to the overall gun feel of the game are definitely required as well. With a little more weapon variety, zany additions in terms of grenades and special abilities, I can't wait to jump in for some quick rounds of the fastest battle royale ever made.